it's a mess. And you know, I'm not sure what your thoughts are, and you don't really have to discuss that, or just as not a candidate, but the medicinal marijuana, the you know how the regulations not really getting appropriately monitored, and people are just you know, what are your thoughts?
You know, with marijuana is right now. I think there's more significant issues that are pressing: the opiates, the heroin. Those are the ones. You know, I don't see us wanting to lock up Jimmy or the person who may be simple possession. You know, and I think there's a very effective program, the LEADS program in Santa Fe County, that's working with nonviolent offenders that are that are addicted to substance abuse. However, if there is violent offenders, then I think we need to prosecute those crimes. And I think we need to be real careful in distinguishing those, because I think there's, you know, ravaging our community with the serious use of drugs, as we've talked about.
You know, you and I were talking backstage before we went on the air about community partnerships, and you may have touched on it a bit, but how did you create those partnerships, and what impact has this had? And how will you continue to do this as DA?
You know, the community partnerships are vital, and I was fortunate, and I think those are the successes with my job that I had as director of the Board of Violence Division at the Attorney General's office. You know, I established partnerships throughout the state, and initially after we drafted the state human trafficking law and it was enacted, I went to 13 judicial districts in New Mexico, and we trained law enforcement and service providers to work together. How do you identify the crime? What do you do when you identify the victim? What kind of care and resources do you use to help this person heal and restore them? So it was a partnership. And so within the 13 districts, we had law enforcement contacts and service provider contacts, and we did this throughout. I'm very pleased here in Santa Fe. We worked very closely with the LifeLink, and we also worked very closely with Solace. And with those persons that we were able to say, this is what we do when we have a victim. And because we had strong service providers, this helped us in our prosecution of the cases, because the victims were cared for, were helped to be restored, and were able to testify at trial. And this is critical to the quality improving prosecution of the case. And you know, other community partners such as Somos Pueblo Unido, important partners, we worked with and helped in draft and lobby for the state human trafficking law, because the immigrant community is another community that is often overlooked. And I drafted in the state human trafficking law that human trafficking victims, regardless of their status, are entitled to benefits and will not be deported if they are considered a victim. So it's very important that we consider all of these partners in our community.
Thank you for answering that. I know you mentioned a lot of training with law enforcement. I know sometimes we have to work with law enforcement as it relates to towing and those kind of things. And you know, it's again about you know, enforcement. But when you train the state police, what is it that you train them for?
You know, training is very important, and I've heard recently from law enforcement that they haven't had a legal update training in over 7 years, and 3 to 7 years. So this is important. The law is changing. Every time there's a Supreme Court or Court of Appeals opinion, the law changes, whether it's related to search warrants, whether it's related to any of the other seizures, that law enforcement needs to be aware of these changes in the law, because they're on the front line. They're investigating the cases. So as a policy I would implement is that we would have monthly trainings with law enforcement, that we would bring these new legal issues so that they're aware of what they need to do when they're out there, and so that they can improve the quality of their investigation and ultimately the quality of our prosecution. So it's important to do training of all sorts and have an open door policy with law enforcement, so if they have a question, they can call you any time of day or night.
Interesting, very good. So how has it been out in the field, on the campaign trail? Do you find it, you know, difficult? You lose sleep sometimes because you got to be, you know, here, you got to be there, you got to prepare all your surveys. You've got so much. What has that been like for you campaigning in Santa Fe County and Rio Riva? Well, what other districts? I shouldn't even
Los Alamos, Santa Fe,
okay.
and Rio Riva County.
Okay.
Yes, it's been quite an adventure, and I'm not a politician. This is my first run for district attorney, so it's all new, a lot of firsts, and I'm enjoying the process. And I really am pleased at meeting a lot of people and receiving the support that I've received, because people are telling me what the needs are in their community, and I'm very fortunate that I identify with these persons that have the same needs and wants in our community. I think they're very important.
Interesting. So have you had any significant support or endorsements?
Yes, I do have Representative Carl Trujillo has endorsed me, as well as former Attorney General Patricia Madrid and Alan Weber.
I remember Patricia Madrid very, very well. I was helping her when I was a youngster, knock on doors and take her to northern New Mexico, and it worked out really well. I've helped a lot of people in office, and now I'm sort of in a different type of position where you just have to, you're so busy so much of the time that it consumes your whole world, but it's fun being on the trail. You know, one of the candidates told me years ago, well, how is it that you know where to go or who to ask for their support? You know, forget all these walking lists. I just go to the houses up north where there's chickens and bumper stickers, and you know those are voters, right?
Yes, yes.
So, you know, it's always good reaching out to people and asking them for their support. And so if there's anything that you would like to tell the public that you haven't already addressed, I mean, you feel free to you know, talk more about not only your district but yourself and your desires to serve.
Okay. Yes, as a native Santa Fe and a lifelong New Mexican, it is very important that we select the right person for this important job of the district attorney, because they do have a lot of responsibility and they make the difficult decisions, whether it's an officer involved shooting or it's a sexual assault. These are important decisions, and I bring a depth of experience, and I've been able to create these strategies that have worked. I bring successes, so it's not so much of what I would do that I don't know is going to work. I'm bringing successes to this position that I know have worked, and that includes working with law enforcement closely. That means promoting a victim's rights, and if there isn't a solution, I have the courage and the willingness to say, let's create one to make our criminal justice system a better tool for us to use, and ultimately to improve our community safety and our quality of life in New Mexico.
And do you think, because you worked in the DA's office, that, you know, I remember when I worked in the Secretary of State's office many moons ago for Clara Jones and Shirley Hooper, I used to think, I just really want to run for that position. Do you think in your mind, in your heart, when you worked there many years ago, or however long it was, that you thought someday I'd like to be in that position?
You know, I didn't see myself running for office back then. I was really working at keeping myself working to learn the job, to excel at the job, and do the most that I could do in working as a public servant. It's only become, I think, because I've accumulated so many of the successes and done some wonderful work and the opportunity, the timing, that it appears that it's a good time for me to bring some of these same successes and that I know can work in our 1st Judicial District.
And I do want to go back to the position. We talked a little bit about what the job entails. I mean, from A through Z, what exactly would you be doing? I mean, you say some cases go there and some, you know, can be prosecuted at that level. But, you know, what's the staff like? How would you work together with the staff? And what exactly does that district attorney's office, you know, in that new building, isn't it in the new building somewhere?
No, it's still in the same building next to the new courthouse.
Oh, next to the new courthouse.
Right,
I thought it might be inside there somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's actually right next door, which is very, very convenient. But the role of the district attorney is part administrative, because you are administering and supervising attorneys and support staff. You're structuring the office. You're determining how you're going to have your office structured for the processing and the screening of cases that are being difficult. Within the office, you have the misdemeanor caseload, which includes DWI, domestic violence, juvenile court, children's court offenses. You also have the felony level crimes, which are going to be all the violent crimes, any other crimes that may be included in that, as well as screening cases for grand jury and presenting the cases. So there's a lot of moving parts, and there's cases that are coming in whether the DA will prosecute or not. So within that, you do have to be seasoned enough to make those difficult decisions to say which cases you should prosecute.
So you mentioned earlier that there was, you know, a heavy caseload you're aware of, and how would you manage that and deal with staff and improve the morale at the district attorney's office?
Well, I'm pretty used to heavy caseload and managing staff. As the director of the Board of Violence Division within the Attorney General's office, I supervised 13 persons at a time, which included investigators, attorneys, and support staff, paralegals. So, and multitasking isn't something new. I'm fairly acquainted with that, and I think it's an important role that this district attorney is able to do that, because you really do have to be out in the community. you have to be working policy with the other community partners, and you have to be able to have a support staff set up and a structure within your office so that all of these cases are moving well and that your staff feels like they're part of a team and that they're supported as well.
Great. Well, it sure has been a pleasure getting to know you, and I know I've seen you out there, shaking hands and meeting people. And I'm fortunate that as the chair of the commission, I do not have opposition, but I didn't know that until what was filing day, March 8th.
Yes.
So, but you still have to get out there and ask people for their support. And so, with that, I wish you luck, and I like you to address the audience and say, if it's up to them and you want their support, it's up to you to ask for that. So I'll give you that last couple of minutes to flaunt yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Valerie. Yes, June 7th is the day. I would like your support. Please remember me on June 7th, and I would like your support because I am the candidate that brings the most experience and the quality experience to this position. And when you're voting for me, you are voting for successes that have already been implemented that we can implement in the 1st Judicial District. So thank you very much, and I appreciate this time here.
You bet. And I'm thank you for reaching out to me to ask to be on this program. Typically, we're really punctual about it, but since we have so many cases, I've sort of gotten away from doing the program. But I really am thrilled that you asked to be on this program. If you want to be on it again, and we can schedule some time if you have some extra ideas or anything you want to talk about. You're welcome here. As are any other candidates that would like to air on this program. Feel free to call our office at 827-4533, and we can get you scheduled. I'd like to keep this program active and alive so that the whole intention is that people know not only who their representatives are, but who they're electing. And I think it's important that they know what we do and how we are accountable to them. And we use this venue in which to get the word out too. And so it's been great having this program. And thank you for being here again, and thank the college. And again, if anybody would like to appear on this program, please call our office at 827-4533. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Valerie.
You bet.